The ship moved in silence through deep space, its silver hull glowing softly under the light of distant stars. Inside the medical bay, everything was still except for the faint sound of the machines. The Aurelian healers stood in a circle, their glowing eyes full of worry. On the main bed lay Princess Luriel, daughter of the Empress of Aurelia, one of the most beautiful and powerful beings in their empire. But now her crystal skin was dull, and the bright light that always shimmered inside her body was fading. Chief Healer Virene looked at the readings on the screen and shook his head slowly. He had tried everything he knew. The princess's life energy was blocked somewhere deep in her chest. Their medical instruments called it a core obstruction, but none of them had ever seen such a thing before. Her veins of light had stopped flowing, her body cold from within, and her breath so weak that even the sensors struggled to detect it. Another healer whispered, "Her core is forming a clot. The energy cannot pass through. If it bursts, she will die instantly." The Empress stood nearby, tall and radiant, but her glow was dimmed by fear. Her voice was quiet yet full of command. "You are the best healers in the Empire," she said. "You must save my daughter." Virene lowered his head. "We have tried everything known to Aurelian medicine. If we use stronger energy to break the clot, we may destroy her heart core. If we wait, the energy will stop completely." No one dared to speak after that. The room filled with the soft hum of machines and the faint pulse of the princess's dying light. Then a younger healer standing near the corner spoke hesitantly. "There is one more on board. The human." Every glowing head turned toward the sound. At the edge of the room stood Lieutenant John Hale, the only human on the ship. He had been silent the whole time, watching the alien healers work. He wore a simple dark uniform with a red patch showing his rank as a medic. Humans were new allies of the Aurelian Empire, and while respected for their courage, they were not trusted with delicate things, especially not with the royal family. Virene frowned. "A human cannot treat an Aurelian. His tools are made for blood and flesh, not light and energy." The young healer bowed his head slightly. "But his species deals with clots. It is something humans understand well. Maybe he can see what we cannot." The Empress looked at John, her eyes like molten gold. "You human, can you help her?" John straightened himself, feeling 100 glowing eyes on him. "I can try," he said carefully, "but I'll need to see her readings." "I can't promise success," the Empress nodded slowly. "If you can bring her back, you will have my thanks. If you fail, you will not be blamed. But if you harm her—" She did not finish the sentence. She didn't need to. John stepped closer to the princess. The light that used to dance under her translucent skin now barely shimmered. Her pulse was slow, uneven, weak. He looked at the holographic scans, his human eyes trying to make sense of alien symbols. But soon he noticed a pattern. The bright energy veins resembled something familiar, a map of arteries and veins but made of light. And in one section there was a small blockage glowing darker than the rest. "It's a clot," he said softly. The Aurelian healers stared. "A what?" "A clot," he repeated. "It's when a body tries to heal itself and ends up blocking its own flow. Her system might think there's damage, so it sealed the area. But now it's choking her life energy." Virene stepped forward. "If that is true, how do we remove it without destroying her?" John opened his small medkit. Inside were tools the Aurelians had never seen. Metal instruments, microneedles, and a device shaped like a pen that hummed softly. "Humans use micropulse vibration to dissolve clots in blood. I can tune it to her frequency. If it works, the blockage will dissolve naturally. You will use your primitive device on a royal heart?" Another healer said in disbelief. John met his eyes calmly. "It's not primitive. It saves lives every day. If you have a better idea, I'll step aside." No one answered. The Empress finally spoke again. "Do it, human. Save her." John nodded once and took a slow breath. His hands were steady, though his heart was racing. He placed the scanner above the princess's chest and adjusted his device to match the glowing rhythm of her remaining pulse. The light from her body cast faint reflections on his face. He whispered quietly to himself, "Come on, stay with me." The micropulse needle glowed faintly as he brought it close to her energy vein. He started the pulse, slow, gentle waves of vibration invisible to the eye but strong enough to move energy particles. The machines around her reacted at once, the monitors rising and falling as if her body was waking up from a long sleep. The Aurelians tensed. "Her readings are unstable," Virene shouted. Hold her steady, John said firmly. It's working. Don't stop me. For a few seconds, the pulse spread through her veins. The dark glow of the clot began to tremble. Threads of light started moving again. Her chest rose a little more with each breath. She's responding, John said. I need to increase the frequency slightly. He turned a small dial. The pulse grew stronger. The blockage shivered, and then burst apart into streams of shining particles. The energy channels lit up, glowing brighter and brighter. The healers gasped as the monitors turned green, but the victory was short. One of the channels flared too fast, spilling raw energy into nearby veins. The alarm screamed, "She's losing core stability," someone cried. John didn't hesitate. He quickly switched to manual control and balanced the field output, lowering the pressure inside her veins. His hands moved fast, adjusting the flow manually with instinct and years of experience. "Come on, don't overreact," he muttered, watching the flickering glow calm down. After a tense minute, the energy stabilized. The alarm stopped. The readings leveled out. The princess's body glowed softly again. Not bright like before, but steady. Peaceful. John finally leaned back, sweat on his forehead. "She's stable now," he said in a low voice. The room fell silent. Every healer stared at the princess, unable to believe what they were seeing. The dull, dying glow had turned into a gentle light that pulsed with life. The Empress stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "You touched the royal core," she said softly. "No Aurelian outside the bloodline has ever done so. And you live." John met her gaze with quiet respect. "I didn't touch her power, Your Majesty. I only guided it back where it belonged." Vereen looked at him with awe. "You have done what our greatest healers could not." John said nothing. He only looked down at the princess again. Her breathing was normal now. The shimmer beneath her crystal skin had returned, faint but steady. He noticed her eyelids moving slightly as if she was dreaming. Then her eyes opened slowly. They glowed like sunrise through glass. She looked at John, and for a second their gazes met. Her voice was barely more than a whisper. "You are warm," John blinked in surprise. "You're safe now," he said softly. "Just rest." Her lips curved into the smallest smile before she drifted back into sleep. The Empress stood beside her, eyes bright with emotion. For a long moment she looked at John. Then with quiet grace she inclined her head. It was not a full bow, but every Aurelian in the room gasped. Their Empress had bowed to a human. "Lieutenant John Hale," she said. "The Aurelian Empire owes you a life. You will be remembered." John gave a small nod. "I only did my duty." But as he stepped back, he couldn't shake the strange feeling that this night had changed more than one life. In the silence of the medical bay, the princess slept peacefully while the stars outside continued to burn. And somewhere deep within the Aurelian ship, respect for humanity had begun to grow, quietly but powerfully. When Princess Luriel opened her eyes again, soft golden light filled the room. The air smelled faintly of silver mist and medicine. For a moment she did not remember where she was. Then she saw the white walls of the medical bay and the quiet glow of the Aurelian healers moving around her. Her body felt lighter, her chest no longer heavy, the pain gone like a memory. She looked at her own hands, the light inside them moving smoothly again. "Easy, Your Highness," said Chief Healer Vereen gently. "You have been unconscious for many hours. The flow in your core has returned." Her voice was weak but calm. "I remember darkness, and then warmth." Her eyes searched the room. "Where is the one who touched my heart?" The healers exchanged glances. Vereen hesitated. "The human medic is resting, Your Highness." "He saved you. Without him you would not be alive." The princess was silent for a moment. She tried to imagine the face of the human who had entered the light within her and restored it. A faint image came back, a man with tired eyes, calm hands, and a voice that spoke without fear. "I want to see him," she said softly. "The Empress has already summoned him to the royal chamber," Vereen replied. "She wishes to speak with him before anyone else." Across the ship, John Hale stood before the Empress herself. The royal chamber glowed brighter than any place he had ever seen. The walls were made of living crystal, breathing faint light, and the throne rose like a tower of stars. The Empress sat upon it, tall and graceful, her gown a river of golden light. He bowed awkwardly, not knowing the Aurelian custom. "Your Majesty," he said, "I am honored to be in your presence." The Empress regarded him quietly. "You saved my daughter's life," she said, her tone calm but sharp like crystal. "Yet you are a human. A species we thought too fragile to understand our kind. Tell me, Lieutenant Hale, why did you risk your life for one not of your world? John looked up at her. Because she was dying, he said simply. And because saving lives is what I do. It doesn't matter what world someone comes from. The Empress studied him for a long moment. Her glow softened slightly. You speak with truth. Few of my own healers would have dared what you did. You broke through the fear that even we could not. John nodded slightly. Sometimes fear only makes us lose time, Your Majesty. And time is what the princess didn't have. A faint smile touched the Empress's lips, almost human. You are a strange creature, human. You act without expectation of reward. She rose from her seat and approached him. Still, the Aurelian Empire does not forget its debts. Name what you wish. I don't want anything, John said. Only to check on the princess when she's strong enough. I want to be sure her healing stays stable. The Empress regarded him carefully. You will see her soon. For now, rest, and know that every Aurelian healer now speaks your name. When John left the chamber, many eyes followed him through the halls. Some looked with respect, others with suspicion. Aurelians were proud. They were not used to depending on another race, especially humans who were considered young and impulsive. Yet now their royal heir lived because of him. That evening, John returned to the medical bay for a quiet inspection. The healers had already reduced the monitoring around the princess. When he entered, she turned her head and their eyes met for the first clear time. Her gaze was warm and deep like sunlight through glass. You are the human who touched the light within me, she said softly. He stopped near her bed. I'm the one who treated the clot, yes. You should rest. You've been through a lot. Her lips curved into a faint smile. Your words are simple, but your heart is steady. My healer said you risked death when you used your tool. He shrugged. Risk comes with the job. I wasn't thinking about death, only about saving you. For a moment she was quiet, studying his face. You don't shine like us, yet there is warmth in you that I can feel even across the air. That is what I sensed before I fell asleep. He looked slightly embarrassed. Humans are warm-blooded, he said with a small laugh. Maybe that's what you felt. She tilted her head curiously. Warm-blooded. How strange. You live with fire inside and yet control it with calm hands. He smiled faintly. That fire is what keeps us alive. Maybe it's what helped me understand your energy too. Her eyes glimmered. Then perhaps the fire of life is the same everywhere, only shaped differently. John checked the readings on the console. Her energy flow was perfect, the core balanced. He adjusted one setting and said, You're recovering fast. A few more cycles and you'll be walking again. The princess looked out through the clear wall where stars drifted slowly by. My people owe you everything, yet many will never admit it. To them, humans are reckless. To me, you are the proof that courage is not owned by one race. John didn't answer right away. He was a soldier and a medic, used to being invisible in alien fleets. He never expected gratitude from anyone. He only wanted to do what was right. After a pause, he said quietly, You don't owe me anything. Just get better. That's enough, but she shook her head slowly. No. My mother will offer you reward or honor. But I wish to give you something else on my friendship. John looked surprised. That's more than enough, Princess. She smiled softly. Then it is settled. From now on, the light of Aurelia and the fire of Earth will walk together, even if only in friendship. In the days that followed, rumors spread across the ship and beyond. Some said the human medic had bonded with the royal bloodline. Others whispered that the Empress planned to send him back to Earth with treasures. But the truth was quieter and simpler. John visited the princess daily to check on her recovery, and each time they spoke a little longer. They talked about their worlds. She about the endless cities of crystal and floating gardens of her home star, and he about the blue oceans and winds of Earth. She listened with wonder to the idea of rain falling from clouds, and he listened to the sound her voice made when she described rivers of light flowing through sky temples. One evening, as the ship passed a region of glowing nebulae, L'Oreal asked softly, Why do you humans care so much for life? Even those you do not know? John thought for a moment. Because we understand what it means to lose it. On our world, we're fragile. We get hurt, we bleed, we fall, but we also heal. That's how we learn to protect others. She looked at him with quiet awe. Then your weakness is also your strength. He smiled. Maybe that's what makes us human. Their conversation was interrupted when an alarm rang faintly through the corridor. Vereen entered quickly, looking concerned. "Forgive me, Your Highness, but the Council has summoned you, human. They wish to question your actions." John frowned. "Question me? Why?" "The Royal Science Council believes your methods may have interfered with the princess's essence," Vereen said carefully. "They fear your treatment changed something inside her." The princess sat up slightly. "That is absurd. He healed me." "There was no damage." Vereen bowed. "The Council does not doubt your word, Your Highness, but they demand to see him. They are already gathered in the lower chamber." John sighed softly. "It's fine. I'll go." He turned to Luriel. "Don't worry. I'll explain everything." She reached out, her hand hovering just above his arm, glowing faintly. "They will not understand you. Be careful." "I'll be fine," he said gently. "I've dealt with harder audiences than doctors." When John entered the lower chamber, the council of Aurelian scholars sat in a half-circle of glowing thrones. Their eyes shone with sharp intelligence. The eldest one, Counselor Tyran, spoke first. "Human, your action saved the royal heir, but our readings show her energy pattern has changed. We must know what you did." John explained everything slowly: how he found the clot, how he tuned the pulse to their wavelength, how he used vibration to dissolve it without damage. They listened carefully, asking question after question, some doubtful, some impressed. Finally, Counselor Tyran said, "You claim to have used instinct to adjust the field manually. You acted without calculation." John nodded. "Yes, sometimes in medicine you don't have time to calculate. You have to feel what's right." The counselor leaned back, thoughtful. "Strange. Feeling instead of pure logic." Another member murmured, "Perhaps that is what saved her. No machine would have taken that risk." At last, Tyran stood. "Very well. The council records this act as a success. The human medic will be recognized as honorary healer of the Aurelian fleet." John bowed slightly, relieved. "Thank you." As he turned to leave, the counselor added, "But understand, human, you have altered more than a life. You have changed the way we see your kind." Later that night, John returned to the medical bay. The princess was waiting, standing this time, her glow brighter and steady. "You faced them," she said. "And you won." He smiled tiredly. "Let's just say they were curious." She stepped closer. "Curiosity is the first sign of trust. My people will learn from you, John Hale. And so will I." For a moment they stood in silence, the stars outside painting their reflections in silver light. Something gentle and unspoken passed between them. Not duty, not royalty, not command, only understanding. And in that quiet moment, far from both their worlds, a bridge formed between fire and light, between human and Aurelian, fragile but strong enough to begin something new. The Valeth drifted silently across a sea of stars. Days had passed since the healing, yet the memory of that night still lived in every corridor. Wherever John Hale walked, whispers followed him. Some Aurelians bowed with new respect. Others stepped aside with cold stares. He was both savior and intruder, a human who had done the impossible. John tried to ignore the attention. He spent his days in the medical bay, checking readings, organizing data, and learning more about Aurelian biology. He liked silence, and the ship gave plenty of it. But sometimes, while walking the long halls, he caught glimpses of the princess through the crystal walls, training with light patterns, her movement graceful, her glow bright again. Every time their eyes met across the distance, she smiled faintly, and something in his chest grew warm. One morning, as John reviewed her recovery logs, an alert flashed across the console. The princess's energy rhythm had changed again, not from illness but from strain. A message followed immediately. "Her Highness requests your presence at the Star Garden." John made his way through winding corridors until the metal changed to living glass. The Star Garden was a place few humans had ever seen. A wide dome filled with floating orbs of light and gentle waves of air that shimmered like water. Luriel stood in the center, surrounded by glowing flowers that opened and closed as if breathing. When she turned, her eyes lit like sunrise. "John," she said softly, "I wanted you to see this place while it still blooms." He stepped forward, amazed. "It's beautiful. Are these real plants?" "They are made of energy, but they live. Each one sings a note of our home world. When joined, they form harmony, the music of Aurelia." John listened carefully. A faint hum filled the air, a calm sound that seemed to touch his heartbeat. "It sounds alive," she smiled. "You hear what most of my kind ignore." They walked among the glowing petals, their reflections moving through the glass floor. She spoke about the Empire, the old wars, the loneliness of command. He told her about Earth's forests, about rain that fell from the sky and the smell of wet soil after a storm. She listened as if she could see every drop. You humans live surrounded by change, she said. Our world has not changed in centuries. We forgot how to adapt. Maybe that's why your body formed that clot, John said gently. It tried to protect you from change, but it almost killed you. She looked at him with quiet surprise. You speak truth like a healer and wisdom like an elder. He laughed softly. I'm just a medic with too much coffee and too little sleep. Her laughter joined his, soft and musical. It was a sound that didn't belong in warships. But peace never lasted long in space. An alarm cut through the garden, a deep vibration that made the glass tremble. The lights flickered red. Overhead speakers came alive. Attention all crew. Unidentified vessels approaching from Vector 9. Prepare for defense. Luriel's expression changed instantly. The warmth in her eyes turned to command. Intruders. The Sherrick fleet. John followed her as she hurried down the corridor toward the command deck. Who are they? He asked. Raiders, she said. They steal energy from living ships. They've hunted us for centuries. When they reached the bridge, the Empress was already there, standing before a great window filled with stars and enemy signals. They seek our core reserves, she said coldly. Raise shields and prepare for evasive pattern. The ship trembled as beams of blue light struck the outer barrier. Crew members moved swiftly, their crystal bodies glowing brighter under stress. John had seen combat before, but never like this. Energy waves rolled through the ship like storms. A sudden explosion shook the deck, throwing him off balance. Luriel grabbed the console to steady herself. Their weapons are disrupting our flow field, she shouted. Vereen called from the medical bay through the comm. Your Majesty, the wounded are coming in fast. We've lost auxiliary power to the lower decks. The Empress turned sharply to John. Human, you have experience with damage control. Go. Save whoever you can. John nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. He sprinted down the narrow halls, dodging sparks and flickering lights. The air smelled of ozone and burning crystal. When he reached the lower medical chamber, chaos greeted him, injured Aurelians glowing erratically, some fading, some flickering with unstable energy. Stabilizers are down. Vereen cried. We can't maintain their forms. John grabbed a portable generator from the shelf. Link it manually, he ordered. We'll route power through human converters. That will overload the circuits, Vereen shouted. Then I'll hold it steady, John said. He clamped the generator onto the core grid and adjusted the output manually, feeling the resistance in his arms as the machine roared to life. The energy lights flickered, then brightened. The wounded stabilized one by one, but outside, the ship shuddered again. A beam struck near the hull, cracking the wall. Luriel's voice came over the comm, calm but strained. John, the Raiders have breached Section 9. We are sealing bulkheads, but one energy conduit near you is overheating. You must get out of there. He looked at the injured around him. Not yet. Too many can't move. John, he cut the line and worked faster. The conduit above hissed, glowing red hot. Without thinking, he used a coolant hose and sprayed the joint, holding it until the metal cooled enough to stop the burn. Then he heard another sound, a faint scream through the static. The princess's voice. Section 9 collapsing. I need assistance. Without hesitation, John ran. Smoke filled the corridor, the air thin and sharp. He reached the collapsed passage and saw her trapped behind fallen beams of crystal. Sparks rained around her, the light in her skin flickering. Luriel, he shouted. She looked up, relief and fear in her eyes. The barrier collapsed. The energy lock is failing, and if it breaks, the whole chamber will implode. John scanned the control panel nearby, half destroyed. He didn't have time to think. He pulled off his jacket, wrapped his hands, and began lifting the heavy shard blocking her path. The energy stung like fire, but he kept pushing until she could crawl free. Go, he said, but she didn't move away. Instead, she pressed her hands against the wall, her light flaring. I can hold the barrier for a few moments, but not alone. Then we hold it together, John said, stepping beside her. He placed his hands on the same surface. The human warmth met the alien glow, and the dying shield flickered alive for a brief instant. The current surged through both of them, binding their energy fields for one heartbeat. The pain was sharp but strangely peaceful. Through the light, she whispered, Your fire, It merges with mine. Then let's use it, he said, gritting his teeth. The barrier stabilized long enough for emergency drones to reach them. When the system finally sealed, they both collapsed to the floor, breathing heavily. Are you hurt? John asked. Her glow pulsed weakly but steady. Only tired. You shouldn't have stayed. You could have died, he smiled faintly. Wouldn't be the first time. When they returned to the bridge, the battle had turned. The Aurelians had activated a massive energy pulse, forcing the Sherrick ships to retreat. Cheers filled the deck, light flaring in victory. The Empress turned toward her daughter and the human beside her. You two held the shield together? She asked. Yes, Mother, Luriel said softly. He would not leave. The Empress looked at John with strange eyes, a mix of gratitude and wonder. You carry no light of your own, yet your warmth kept ours alive. John stood silently, unsure what to say. The crew began to whisper again, not in suspicion this time, but in admiration. That night the ship floated quietly again. Stars drifted outside and the wounded rested in healing light. In the garden, John and Luriel stood side by side, looking at the faint scars where the crystal had cracked. She said softly, When our energies joined, I felt your heartbeat. It was fast, strong, full of life. That rhythm, it calmed the storm. He looked at her with a tired smile. Guess that's what humans do best, and we survive storms. She reached out her hand, glowing softly. Then maybe you were never meant to be just a guest among us. He hesitated for a moment, then took her hand gently. The warmth of his skin met the soft light of hers. Neither spoke for a long time. Above them, the stars reflected on the glass walls, merging their two silhouettes, one of light, one of fire, standing together in the quiet after chaos. The Valeth floated in silence after the battle, surrounded by the cold beauty of the stars. The ship's great wounds were sealed, its light steady once more, but inside every corridor there was still a sense of awe. The crew had seen something that would be remembered for generations, the day a human and an Aurelian princess had stood side by side and saved the ship. John Hale woke in the medical bay, his hands bandaged, his body aching but alive. He blinked against the soft golden light filling the room. The machines hummed quietly around him, and through the clear walls he could see the movement of healers passing by. You should not be up yet, said a gentle voice. He turned and saw Luriel standing near his bed. Her glow was softer than before, like morning light through mist. She was dressed not in royal robes, but in a simple gown of silver fabric. Her eyes met his, warm and calm. John tried to sit up, but she reached out, steadying him with light fingers. You almost burned your hands holding the barrier, she said. The healers say the energy nearly fused with your blood. He looked at his hands and smiled faintly. Guess I got lucky again. She shook her head slowly. It was not luck. It was heart. He looked at her for a long moment. So, how bad was it out there after we blacked out? The Sherrick fleet fled after we released the pulse, she said. The ship still needs repairs, but the danger is over. My mother is meeting with the council to speak about new defense protocols. They are calling it the human method. He raised an eyebrow. The what? She smiled, amused. They have decided that courage mixed with instinct deserves a title. John laughed softly. I didn't do anything special. Anyone would have done the same. Her voice turned quiet. No, John. Not anyone. For a while they said nothing. The hum of the ship surrounded them like a heartbeat. Then Luriel spoke again. When the energy merged between us, I felt something inside you. Not just your strength, but your memories. For a brief moment, I saw your world. John blinked. You saw Earth? Yes, she said softly. I saw rain. I saw trees moving in the wind. I saw people walking in cities full of sound. It was beautiful, so different from our still skies. He smiled faintly. It's not always beautiful. We have storms, floods, dust, hunger. But yes, sometimes it can be. Her gaze softened. You humans live with imperfection and yet create beauty from it. Maybe that is why your warmth feels alive. He leaned back against the bed. And you Aurelians live with perfection and forget what it means to struggle. Maybe both our worlds could learn something. She tilted her head. Perhaps that is what fate intended, for light and fire to meet. Before he could reply, a chime sounded and the Empress entered. The healers bowed as she approached. She looked at John with quiet pride. "Lieutenant Hale," she said, "you have done more than save my daughter. You have saved this vessel and every life aboard it. The Council and I have spoken. We have decided to grant you the title of Star Guardian." John blinked, surprised. "That's a bit much, isn't it?" The Empress smiled faintly. "Humility suits you, human, but titles are how we remember those who change us." He hesitated. "Thank you, Your Majesty. But I didn't come here for honors. I only wanted to help." She nodded slowly. "And that is why you are worthy of it." Then she turned to her daughter. "Luriel, you will accompany him when he returns to Earth. I have chosen you as our envoy to his world. The alliance must grow stronger." Luriel's eyes widened. "Mother, you would send me away?" "Not away," said the Empress. "Across. The bridge between us must be walked by those who understand both sides. And you, my daughter, have touched the fire of humanity and lived." For a moment, silence filled the room. Luriel's expression was unreadable. Surprise, fear, and a quiet spark of something else. She looked at John, who seemed just as stunned. "Your Majesty," John began carefully, "Earth isn't exactly a palace. It's noisy, crowded, unpredictable." The Empress smiled. "Then it sounds perfect for my daughter to learn from." Luriel lowered her eyes. "If it is your command, I will go." The Empress placed a glowing hand on her shoulder. "It is not a command, my child. It is trust." Then she looked at John. "Take care of her as you would take care of yourself." "I will," he said softly. When the Empress left, the room fell silent again. Luriel turned to him, her light shifting softly. "It seems our paths are tied now." He smiled faintly. "Looks that way." Days later, the Valeth arrived near the human trade station orbiting Earth. It was the first time an Aurelian royal ship had come so close to the planet. The news spread quickly. Every human vessel in range wanted to see the glowing ship from the stars. John stood with Luriel at the viewport. Below them, Earth glowed blue and white, its clouds swirling gently. "That's home," he said quietly. Luriel's eyes widened in awe. "It looks alive." He nodded. "It is. Everything down there breathes, grows, and breaks. It's messy, but real." She smiled. "I can already feel its pulse." When they landed on the orbital platform, humans and Aurelians stood side by side for the first time without fear. Cameras floated around, broadcasting the moment across both civilizations. The Empress's voice echoed through every channel, a speech sent from light years away. "From this day forward, Aurelia and Earth shall share knowledge, not power. Let the fire of one warm the light of the other." The world cheered, but for John the real moment was quieter. Later that night, when the ceremonies were over and the platform lights dimmed, he found Luriel standing at a window, looking down at the spinning Earth. Her reflection shimmered beside his. She said softly, "I can hear it, John. The heartbeat of your planet. So loud, so full of life." He smiled. "That's what keeps us moving." She turned to him. "I want to see it, not from orbit but standing on its soil." He nodded. "Then I'll take you there." They took a small shuttle down through the clouds. The planet spread beneath them like a living painting. Mountains, rivers, cities glowing at night. When they landed near a quiet coast, the sound of waves filled the air. Luriel stepped out first. The wind caught her silver hair and her eyes filled with wonder. "So this is air," she whispered. "And this is the sea." She bent slightly, letting the wind touch her hands. "It feels free." John watched her with a faint smile. "Welcome to Earth, Princess." She looked up at him, her expression soft. "On my world, everything is still. Here, everything moves. Even the light dances." He nodded. "That's life," It never stops moving. They walked along the beach for a while, quiet except for the sound of the waves. The horizon burned orange as the sun began to rise. Luriel watched it in silence. On Aurelia, the light never rises or sets, she said. It simply exists. But this is alive. John looked at her, the sunrise reflecting in her golden eyes. You're seeing change, it's what we live for. She turned to him. And you gave that to me, the chance to change. You saved my body, but you also opened my heart to something new. He hesitated, not knowing how to answer. I just did what anyone would do. She smiled gently. You keep saying that, but I think you're wrong. The wind moved between them, carrying the sound of the sea. She stepped closer, the glow from her skin blending with the soft sunlight. Your warmth healed more than my heart core, John. It healed a part of me I didn't know was broken. He met her eyes quietly. Then maybe we healed each other. They stood there as the first light of morning touched both of them. Human and Aurelian, fire and light, two lives bound by something neither science nor command could explain. Above them, the Valeth drifted high in orbit, a symbol of what could be when courage crossed worlds. The Empress's final message echoed through the fleet, carried by the stars. Let not fear divide what life itself has joined. And on that quiet shore, with the wind moving through her silver hair and his hands still bandaged from battle, the human medic and the alien princess watched the sun climb higher, the first dawn of a new chapter between their worlds. For the first time in Aurelian and human history, light and warmth existed side by side, not as conqueror and subject, not as healer and patient, but simply as two souls who had learned to see each other clearly beneath the endless stars.